Well, thank you everyone for who's watching this or listening to this. You have Jack here speaking with Dimitri from Keyrenter, and we're here to learn all about Keyrenter, the concept, the property management industry in general, and hopefully educate individuals who might be interested in the Keyrenter franchise. So, Dimitri, thank you so much for joining.
Yes, thank you, Jack, for having me. Just to give a little background, I've been with Keyrenter for about 15 months now, and it's been quite enjoyable. We've had a very successful year, and the property management space is growing, and one that is gaining a lot of attention just because of the real estate market right now. And there's a lot of similarities in how they're tied together there, which is where I kind of want to introduce the opportunity with property management. A lot of people kind of get a sour taste or a bad idea of property management. And I can assure you that a lot of what you think about property management isn't the case. Some worries, for example, like having to deal with maintenance calls or other issues like that. We have tools and processes in place that make it very easy. And so you don't have to deal with midnight calls, which is a very common misconception. But talking about the industry itself, prior to being in this space, I didn't or wouldn't have even guessed that the numbers looked like this. But you have 45 million US households in the United States that are actually renting out their homes. And you have about 110 million people that are renting. So a little bit north of the third of the population in the US is looking to rent. The number there is 37%. And with the current conditions of the real estate market, it is driving home buyers further and further away from that and drawing them more towards the idea of renting. And so that's continuing to increase as time goes on. And so we're seeing our business grow tremendously right now. Looking at kind of what makes Keyrenter a little bit different is the fact that Keyrenter focuses solely on single family homes. You have some competitors of other property management companies or even some mom and pops that try and do short-term vacation rentals or commercial properties or apartment complexes. We have found that our bread and butter is single family homes. It has proven to be the most profitable and the most sustainable long term. And so we remain hyper focused on that area. Now, that's not to say that after you have some experience that you can't venture out into some of those other areas, but our support and our focus is in that single family home market. Just to give you an idea on kind of what makes Keyrenter a good opportunity, it's that the industry is booming. This is a very projectable and scalable business. As you look for essentially putting together a pro forma for yourself, it's fairly easy to do so. For example, let's say you're charging 10% as a management fee and it's $2,000 a month for rent. Your income for that property is going to be $200 a month. It's pretty easy to put together your income there, and then your expenses as we go through that process can outline what that'll look like for you. So it's very projectable and scalable. As far as franchising is concerned, it's a very low capital investment. Of course, that's relatively speaking. I'm not saying that $80,000 to $130,000 isn't a lot of money, because certainly it is. But in the franchising world, it's very affordable. This is a model where it's almost impossible to go bankrupt in. It's very almost no barriers of entry in the space. We have a lot of prime territories still available. They're really the only markets that are essentially sold out are Denver, Dallas, and parts of Florida. The rest of the country is very wide open. So a lot of amazing opportunity. And then really the final piece that is the most important thing that makes Keyrenter a good opportunity and makes us different is the company culture and support. And I know it's a cliche to say, hey, we have awesome support. And so anyone listening, I don't want you to just take my word for it. If you engaged in this discovery process and started to meet our team a little bit, you would realize how entrepreneurial and how different it is with Keyrenter Property Management. To kind of give you an idea on really who it is that's the ideal franchise owner for us, and we want to make sure we set the right expectations. We're looking for someone that's going to work full-time in the business. This isn't something that we see being successful if you are doing it part-time. Embraces technology, and what we mean by that is everything that we do is software based. So as long as you have a Wi-Fi connection, you can do your work from anywhere, which is nice and appeals to a lot of people. The three things that will make you the most successful, or trends that we see in our top 20% of performing franchisees, will encompass the next 3 points that I'll talk about. And that's going to be an entrepreneurial spirit and a drive to succeed. When you understand truly your why and why it is that you want to be a business owner. As you go through those beginning stages where you're not making money, and going through those hard times and continuing to stay motivated with that why factor, that will help you to push through those times and be successful. So entrepreneurial spirit and drive to succeed. Next, natural people person. And then the last bullet point is going to be good communication, organizational skills. Real estate is such a relationship-driven industry, and so your ability to network and build and grow those relationships in your area will be a large driving factor in your ability to succeed in this industry. And then finally, kind of what we're looking for is someone who's willing to follow those proven systems that we have. The whole point of franchising is to alleviate a 2 to 3 year learning curve that you would have in any industry doing it on your own. And so we don't want you to reinvent the wheel. We spent, the last 7 years of franchising, understanding how to do it the right way. And so we have the proper systems and tools in place to help you to be successful. Talking about some of the financial requirements, which is certainly a common question. You have a $55,000 initial investment that's paid at signing, and your total initial investment is going to vary anywhere between 80,000 up to $130,000 dollars. And so that's kind of high level. Jack, I'll kind of turn it over to you for maybe some common questions that you see that I can get answered for you.
For sure, for sure. Dimitri, thank you so much for going through that. I think you actually touched on some of the interesting questions I would have had regarding what makes for a successful franchisee, and what characteristics they should have. I think that was really helpful for people listening to know that. A question I had as a follow-up to that is there any background requirements, any sort of, do they need to have experience in the space? I don't know if you don't mind touching on that.
Yeah, this is a question we get a lot, and the answer is always fascinating because people generally think that we would have an outstanding number of franchisees that come from a real estate or some sort of a property management background, and actually, essentially almost 90 to 92% of our franchisees come from a background that has nothing to do with real estate or property management. And so to answer your question, no, we don't have any sort of non-negotiables as far as the ideal franchise owner. We definitely think that various types of backgrounds are useful in growing a business. I will say this, for example, if you have a sales background and you're comfortable with those sales conversations, you might in the beginning have a higher conversion rate of bringing on property owners, or if you're just naturally a good talker or people person. But that is the goal, and something that we emphasize is that even with someone with no property management experience at day zero, by the end of that first year, we want you to have full confidence moving forward to be successful in running and operating your business. And so we have weekly one-on-one coaching calls as an example, where we go through those conversations, and we'll go through scenarios of different types of conversations that may come up and how to navigate through those and be successful to bring on those properties. And so I know that was a long-winded answer, but no, there isn't some sort of specific characteristic or career path that we have that many come from.
Got it. Thank you for that, Dimitri. Now, in terms of just the market in general, how does Keyrenter compete in the market? Are they competing against mom and pop? Is it other kind of bigger property managers? What does that look like?
It's a great question. So out of that 45 million people that are renting out their houses, 70% of that 45 million are do-it-yourself property managers. And so that actually is your biggest competitor. It's going to be those. Now, with that in mind, there is so much real estate to go around for anyone. So even if, let's say, you have, a business where you have 300 properties under management, you still kind of barely scratch the surface of what's available in your area. But to answer your question, yeah, your biggest competitor is going to be the the do-it-yourselfers, the mom and pops that are in the area. Now, I will say this: the mom and pops experience double the vacancy rate as a standard property management company. And one thing that really sets Keyrenter apart is the tenant screening process that we have. In the 7 years that we've been franchising, to date, we're managing about 6,200 properties. We've evicted less than 1% in those 7 years, so less than 62. So we have a phenomenal eviction rate percentage there. And then our reviews, if you look online, are pretty tremendous. And it's because we're putting the proper tenants in place. We're managing those relationships. Relationships first are the ultimate priority. in this industry.
Got it. Yeah, thank you for that. I think it helps to understand the competitive market and basically paint the picture to kind of how open it is. It's a huge market, and there's no like big McDonald's or some, no big competitor. It's really distributed kind of all over the place at the mom and pops who generally they're not sophisticated because they can only get to a certain size. They don't have the software Keyrenter does.
Yeah.
Maybe if you don't mind talking a little bit about that so people can kind of understand that differentiating factor for Keyrenter. I guess what sort of systems are there in place to help manage the homes?
Yeah, the benefit of franchising is you're able to, I don't want to say leverage because it almost sounds bad, but you're able to use the relationships that you have with vendors. So for example, AppFolio is a property management software that's been rated the best in class. If you're a mom and pop property manager and you're managing less than 50 properties, you are not allowed to have access to AppFolio. And so because we have that contract with them, our new franchisees that even have zero are able to just come in and utilize that software. So that's a major benefit there. So the main software that we use is AppFolio, and then we have some training and other softwares that we've developed in-house to help assist with that back-end items.
Got it. Thank you for going over that. Now, I think if I was looking at the property management space, Keyrenter specifically, probably one of my biggest concerns would be how, and this is a concern we've heard from our clients, is that how does one get the homes? How does one get the dorms, if you're going to use the industry language? Would you mind talking about that and kind of the systems and the ways that the Keyrenter franchisees obtain homes to manage?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a couple different ways. One's going to be through SEO, right? So someone naturally, and I don't want to just use language. So search engine optimization, right? If someone goes onto Google and they look up a property or property management, they will be able to have access to see some of the properties that are on your website. So it'll be some coming through there, and then other parts of it will be you naturally going out and networking. There's a lot of different ways. I know that was kind of an indirect answer, but a lot of it will be through your website and through your marketing efforts that you're doing.
Got it. Thank you.
So,
now, in terms of the roles and responsibility for a Keyrenter franchisee, so once someone becomes a franchisee owner, what are they focusing on? Where are they spending their time?
Another good question. So we have all of the support and tools in place so that you aren't worried about growing your website or doing those things. Our focus for you is, again, networking. I know it's going back to managing relationships, but that's what we want you to be focused on, is that just day to day going out, building your brand awareness in your area. Both that'll be done on the digital side from our team, but organically through your own efforts. And so that's where we want your focus to be. Be good at what you're being good at, which is going to be, being a people person.
Got it. So networking, I assume networking with realtors, is that the main?
Yeah, realtors and investors, there's local events that you can attend. There's a lot of things that we can recommend, but yeah, local realtors specifically, just because they're well in touch with the rental market.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. Now, in terms of managing the business, how does the kind of the team structure look like for a franchisee when they start up to year 3? Like, what sort of roles do they hire for and all that?
So typically what you'll see with franchisees, they're going to first hire some sort of a VA, a virtual assistant for their website. Very cost effective and can help out quite a bit. But as far as in-house staff, you yourself are going to be able to, depending on your capabilities and how much stress you can handle, up to 90 to 100 properties yourself. And then essentially every 50 properties after that, you would then hire someone else in-house. And essentially you're just hiring another property manager to help assist with, and they would essentially own a section of that 150. So they would own the portfolio of 50 properties and go through that. Just to give you an idea, in Austin, Texas, our owner down there has 14 employees, and the one in Denver, has almost 16 or 17. So it can be quite a bit. And granted, they're at, north of 500 properties. But essentially the rule of thumb is about every 50 properties is when you would look to hire someone.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, in terms of how the business itself operates, what are the sources of revenue streams that a franchisee owner would receive?
Primary source of revenue is going to be your management income that you make from managing the property to 6 to 10% there. You also have some maintenance income that can be incorporated to that. Some of our offices charge a maintenance fee, essentially where you're when the vendor comes out and services the property, you're just taking kind of a cut of that before you give that the bill to the owner. Again, some do, some don't. That's not something we push everyone to do or not do. That's totally up to you. And then as well, naturally, a part of this process is going to be real estate sales opportunities. Now, we're not going to want that to be your focus, obviously, because we want you to focus on growing your property management business. But naturally, again, this is a real conversation that a lot of people are having. When you look at the 2008, 2009 recession and houses were really cheap to buy, a lot of individuals that bought at that time that have been renting their home for the past, 12 years, because of how high the prices are now in the market, they're just looking to cash out. And so you would be able to, if you wanted to, because you'd have your real estate license, manage those listings and go ahead and do the buy and sell of them.
Got it.
So
got
that
it,
would
okay.
be added income there as well.
That makes sense. So basically, the idea is that Keyrenter property manager networks with these property owners, and then these investors, in essence, are buying and selling homes, and so they're going to go to the property manager instead of a realtor because they're interacting with the property manager monthly basis.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Now, in terms of the process, let's just say that someone watches this video and says, "Oh yeah, I'm really interested in Keyrenter." What does the process and what does the timeline look like to become approved, and sign the franchise agreement for Keyrenter?
This is not something where, we are just saying, hey, can you write a check? Like, let's sign up. We definitely go through this process where we're vetting you as well as you vetting us. And so the process with us is an 8-step discovery process. It's going to be an intro call, then a brand review, then what we call is a request for consideration. Then step 4 would be a territory call. Step 5 is review the FTD. Step 6 is attend discovery day. Step 7 is final validation, and then step 8 would be signing. Now, as far as the time frame, that is the thing that changes most with anyone that we're speaking with, and I'm sure you would be able to validate that as well. Everyone's timelines are always adjusting due to family events or whatever it might be. So, what a typical process looks like is we would have essentially 1 to 2 calls a week, depending on what you're looking for, which would put you at about a month to a month and a half of discovery. Let's say you attended discovery day and you wanted to move forward. Our expectations would be that you would sign within 14 to 30 days max. So all in all, you're really looking at a 2 to max 2.5 month process. And something that we also like to tell people to keep in mind is a beautiful phrase, right? Begin with the end in mind. As part of the process, you have 3 months of onboarding before your doors are even able to be open. So if you're saying, I want to be open middle of Q1 of next year, well, then that 8-step discovery process needs to be a little bit quicker than, a typical 2-month process. We would need to have 2, maybe even 3 calls a week. And so if you're asking yourself the question, when should I open? Know that it's, 3 months of onboarding plus then whatever discovery that it would typically take for an individual. So that's a kind of roundabout answer, but
Got it. So basically, it really depends on, besides like the when you say 3 months of onboarding, do you mean from the time they sign to the time they actually open up their?
correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got it. So it's 3 months of that, and then pre that though, it kind of depends on how fast the person wants to move.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're totally, again, this is something where your pace is our pace. We definitely don't want to get into a holding pattern where it's, 1 call every other month. So yeah, generally with that discovery process, it's usually 1 call a week. And then if an individual is wanting to move faster, we would look at 2 calls a week.
So in terms of all the questions I had that I've written down, I've gone through all of them. Is there any other items you thought it was worthwhile to go over while we're talking today?
Let's see here. Just kind of going back to the industry and talking about how unique it is. Um, when you look at the comparison between rental costs and the purchase price of homes, rent increases at an average of 3.2% year over year. Um, when you look at the 2008, 2009 housing crash or the recession, you're looking at an average median cost of homes at around 190,000. At the end of that point, it was about 160,000. So you're looking at a decrease in an average purchase price of $30,000. A lot of people think that rent and purchase price of homes directly correlate, and that isn't the case. During that exact same time, when you had a $30,000 decrease in in purchase price, you had a $60 increase on average of rent. And so what happens, and specifically now with this market, a lot of people are thinking, oh, well, when the real estate market crashes, rent's just going to crash along with it. Well, no, rent establishes itself in the marketplace and stays true to that. And so the people that are going to benefit the most are going to be those property owners, and the property managers, of course. So
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I think it's a good point to touch base to touch on that. I mean, it's hard to say anything's like recession resistant, but it pretty much is. Like, this industry is will perform, strongly in a recession, strongly, when the market's doing really well, just because it's not dependent on the price of the home. It's going to be just dependent on just having homes under contract is really the biggest key feature.
absolutely.
For sure. All right. Now, Dimitri, were there any other items to go over?
No, that covers it. As far as coordinating calls or getting that set up, you can either reach out to me directly at Dimitri, but it's going to be Dimitri at keyrenter.com, or reaching out to Alexis at keyrenter.com. And then we can get those calls, those intro calls set up and start through that discovery process.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, Dimitri, thank you so much for your time today. I think it was really informative. So hopefully our listeners also appreciate this as well. And yeah, we're looking forward to being in touch.
Great. Thanks for the time, Jack.